Hi, Tim Unkert here, early morning video. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to create a worksheet in C#. We're going to actually create an HTML file, then use the browser to create a PDF of that. And we're going to write our code in C#, which is .NET. So just to get that, you go to .NET or google.net. You can go here, click on this link. I'm using a Chromebook. I usually click here, and then you can go to download. And for the Chromebook, I'm running the Debian Linux on that. You would install this, and it's sensing that I'm using Linux. If you're using Alpine, do that. CentOS, use that. I'm using Debian 10. So basically, I'm going to put this into the command line and hit enter. And then I'm going to copy and put this into the command line and hit enter, let it run, and it's installed. Okay, so if you have it installed, I'm going to bring up the terminal here, and we're going to go, and I'm going to do this, write this file in Vim, which comes pre-installed with Debian 10 on a Chromebook. Just the base Vim. I have one color theme called One that I put on there, and a very small Vim RC. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And let's get started. So I'm going to change into my directory that I made for C# programs. And then in here, I'm going to create a C# program. And I'm going to do that with the command .NET new console, capital C on that, -O for the output. And then what I want to name it, which is binomial addition. Okay, and it's going to go ahead and create that, which it has a few files, like a program file, some object files. We're just going to be altering the program.cs. Okay. All right, so now if I list out the storage, you see that I have this folder called binomial addition. So I'm going to cd into binomial addition. And if I do vim dot, that'll bring me to netrw. Sometimes I use Emacs key bindings. All right, so I want to go to program.cs. I can ignore the other files. And so you'll see it created a basic outline for a program here. I'm going to add a few things besides this using system that we're going to need. So I'm going to have to use system.io and using system.threading .tasks. Okay. And now we're going to move down here and my indent. Let me set my indent correctly. So I'll just set tab spot at 4, set soft tab spot at 4, and set shift width equal to 4. That should do it. Okay. All right. So there we go. So now I'm going to create a class called create problems. And then within that create problems class, I'm going to have a method, and that's going to be public static. To declare that, I'm going to type public static async. I'm going to call it task, and then the name of the method, write problems. Okay, and then within that, I'm going to declare a random variable, rand, which is a new random. And I'm going to start a for loop. I'm going to say for integer I that's equal to 0. When I is less than 100, and we're going to increment I by 1 as we iterate through that loop. Okay, so now I'm going to have to create a few different things. And let's bring up a draw island and talk about that. Okay, so, and when I say bring up a draw island, I mean I'm just going to this website called drawisland.com. I have no affiliation with them. I just like using it to make some demonstrations here. So I'm talking about adding binomials here. What I'm talking about is we have some binomial. I don't want to save the file. Let me undo that. Let's just restart that one. I don't know what was going on there. Okay. So I have some binomial, and let's say I have some value here, some coefficient 4 times x, then plus some constant, let's say 3, and then, why is it doing that? Then we're going to add another binomial, and this binomial might not have the same power. So it might be 2x, or it might be, say, 2x cubed. All right, and this power here, even though I didn't write it in this particular example, is 1. So this would actually be 2x cubed plus 4x to the first power plus 4 for our solution. So we get a trinomial. If these were the same, then we could combine those and we get a binomial, okay? But we do have 2 coefficients here, 2 constants, and 2 powers. And so we need to create all of those. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to say int coefficient 1 is going to equal rand, and then we'll say next. And I want the range to be 1 through 11, or 1 through 10. So I'm going to go 1 through 11, okay? And I'm going to copy that one more time, so 6 times. And we're going to change the last 2 a little bit, but this is going to be coefficient 2. This is going to be const, let's call this const 1. Let's call this const 2. Okay. Let's undo that. All right. Let's call this power 1. With this one, though, I want it to be either 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm going to delete this and just insert 5 because it goes 1 less than the max number that I want. Okay, and let's go back here, and we'll call this power 2. Okay. All right, so we've created our powers, and now we have to start creating some strings that we're going to write. So let's say string and the problem number, which we're going to want. All right, so that's going to be $, and then I'm going to use an H2 heading, and I'm going to say problem, because we're writing this to HTML, I plus 1. Okay, so this is like the $sign in front of the quotes is kind of like a template literal in JavaScript. And then I'm going to close out my H3 heading, put the variables between the brackets. And then we're also going to have the problem. So I'm going to say string the problem, and that's going to be a paragraph. Where I'm going to say something like simplify, and we'll have coefficient 1 times x raised to whatever power 1 is. So power 1. Okay. Plus, then we'll have constant 1. Okay, so that's our first binomial, and then we're going to add that to another binomial. And that next binomial, we're going to have coefficient 2 times x, and we'll do a superscript to raise it to power 2 in this case. And close out that superscript and close out. Oh, wait, no, we got to add the constant. I almost forgot that. And then constant 2. Okay, now we're going to close up this paragraph here. And so that's our string problem. We're not going to have a break. I'm going to use padding in the CSS to get that. I'm also going to declare a solution, just string solution, but I'm going to leave it as a blank string right now. Okay, so that's going to write out to the first HTML file that we create, which we'll do in a moment. And that's going to write out a bunch of problems, 100 problems, very easily, randomly generated. So that's awesome, right? The solution is going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to have some conditional statements for the solution. So I'm going to start into my, let's make a comment here, solution conditionals. All right. So I'm going to say if, and then power 1, if that equals power 2, well, then our solution is going to be, we're basically going to have two possibilities for the solution. If we have power 1 is equal to 1, and then that would mean power 2 is equal to 1. I noticed an error here. Yeah, it's case sensitive. If they're equal to 1, well, then we don't really have to write the power, so I'm not going to write the power in that particular case. So I'm going to make a little statement here. I'm going to say if power 1, if that equals 1, well, then what I'll do is we'll say that the solution string is equal to, and we're doing the $ in front here because we're going to pass in some variables, paragraph. It's going to be coefficient 1 plus coefficient 2 times x plus constant 1, spell that right, plus constant 2. Since the powers are the same, we're going to get a binomial, okay? For both of these, actually. And I'm going to say else because there's only one other thing, and that's that power 1 doesn't equal 1. Well, then the solution is going to equal, we're going to do the $ again because we're going to pass in some variables. It's going to be, again, coefficient 1 plus coefficient 2 times x, but then we're going to have in superscript here, we're going to have power 1 or power 2. They're both the same in this particular example. Well, we've said that in the conditional above, all right? So, and then we're going to have plus const 1 plus const 2, okay? All right, so that's our first if conditional. But now, so the other conditional here is the power 1 does not equal power 2. So we're going to have an else statement, all right? And then we're going to have some if and else ifs. All right, so there's 4 other conditionals we have. We have power 1 is greater than power 2, and power 2 is not equal to 1, so we'd have to write out both powers. We can have power 1 is greater than power 2, and power 2 equals 1, so we don't write out the power for power 2. We could have power 1 is less than power 2, and power 1 does not equal 1, so we have to write out both powers. But we're going to have power 2 first. And then the other one would be that power 1 is less than power 2, and power 1 equals 1, so we'd have to write out both. Got it? Good. Okay. So we're going to say first one, power 1 is greater than power 2. If that's the case, and power 2 does not equal 1, well, if that's the case, then what we're going to do is we are going to say that the solution, again, we're using the $sign. It's like a template literal in JavaScript. And I say that because I know it's called a template literal in JavaScript. So we have cof1 times x, and then we're going to raise it to power 1. Okay. And then plus, now we're going to have cof2 because we can't combine them. They're not like terms. Times x raised to, and we're going to write the power because power 2 is still greater than 1. And then we can still combine the constants. We're always able to combine the constants because they are like terms. Okay, and we'll close out that parentheses, put a semicolon there. And now we're going to have an else if conditional because we have another conditional. So power 1 is still greater than power 2 in this case, but power 2 equals 1. Okay, so let's make this a little bit easier on myself. So I'm just going to yank this line, go down here, and paste it. And the one thing I'm going to take out is this superscript here because we don't need to write this. So I'm just going to highlight this and delete it. And that should be good with that. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so now we're going to have another else if conditional. And this time we'll have that power 1 is less than power 2, and power 1 does not equal 1. Okay. Whoops. Thought I was in normal mode there. Okay, so I'm going to say solution equals, use the $sign, we're passing in variables, start the paragraph tag. This time we're going to have coefficient 2 times x raised to power 2 plus, now coefficient 1 times x, and we have to write the power because it's greater than 1, power 1 plus, we're going to have const 1 plus const 2. Okay, and we're going to close out the paragraph tag there and put a semicolon. All right, I am going to yank this line. Oh, I yanked it and pasted it. I didn't want to paste it. I just want to yank it. So, okay, and then the only other thing is that power 1 could be equal to 1. All we have to say here is else because that's the only other condition. And I'll paste that. And we'll just get rid of this part here. Okay. So now we want to write to the files, and we can do that with something called stream writer. Oops, I want to go up here. So I'm going to say using, and then stream writer, and I'll give it a name for this variable equals file dot append text, and let's call it binomial addition .html, and so we're going to write to that file, and we're going to write two things. We're going to do w.write line to write the first thing, and we're going to write the problem number. Okay, and we're also going to use w.write line, and we're going to write the problem. Okay, because I'm going to use CSS to space those out after that. So then I'm going to say using, now we're going to write to the solution file, Steam Writer. Let's call this WA, just a different name. You call it what you want. File.append text. We're going to write to binomial dash addition dash sol for solution.html. And in here, we're going to do wa.writeLine. We're going to write again the problem number. And then we're going to write the solution. Okay. And I'm just using Control N to expand that for auto completion, which is kind of built in, which is built into Vim, not kind of built in. All right, so now there's one more thing we have to change. When you start a new .NET project, you'll see this console.writeLine hello world. We're going to change that. So really, what we need to do is go to the top here. We see that our namespace is binomial addition, and under that we have a class called create problems, and then the method called write problems. So we're going to go back here and delete this line, and we're going to call create problems dot write problems. So the class and the method, and put a semicolon there. And let's check this out. So I'm going to open a terminal here, and all I'm going to say is .NET build to start. And it might get a couple warnings, but hopefully we won't get any errors. So let that run for a moment. Okay, it's going to take a moment to build it. It's taking a little bit longer because I'm recording. Usually it's quicker than this, but okay, we did get one error. Let's see what we got for an error. Stream right. Okay, because I spelled it wrong. So let's go and fix that. So it should be, yeah, you see the error right there. It should be stream writer. Okay, all right. Let's reopen the terminal here, and let's run that command again. We also got some warnings, but I'm just ignoring those. Yeah, I'm having fun doing this C# here, but I don't use this typically in work. So I probably want to take a look into those. 2 warnings, but no errors, 0 errors. All right, that's what I want to see. So now I'm going to say .NET run. And it's going to run through. It may give me the errors again, or it may just not at this point. Okay. And yep, it just ran. And if we list out, we see now that in this folder, we have 2 HTML files. All right, so let's exit out of there, and let's open up one of those HTML files. So we see that we wrote the problem, but not the solution. So let's take a look at what's going on there. So I'm going to remove those 2 files. And let's just remove those. And let's open this. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. Let's open program.cs. See what's going on there. All right, so all we did was write the problem number. Why was that? So let's go down to see what we're writing. because I did problem number twice. I haven't had any caffeine yet this morning, so I've got to write the actual problem. Okay, so bear with me. I leave these mistakes in here on purpose, just so you can learn from them. Okay, anyways, go back to .NET build, and let's build it. Probably get those warnings again, but hopefully we won't get any errors. And we're waiting for it. We're waiting for it. It's going to do it right now. Okay. All right. Now let's run it. And we're going to wait. We're going to wait for it. And it does run a bit slower because I'm filming at the same time. Okay, so we're good there. Let's list out. Yep, we created the files. Let's exit out of here. Let's go back into this file here. And we see we've got a nice HTML file created, but we do want to add a few things to this, okay? So I'm going to go back into insert mode here, and that's first thing I want to do is declare a doc type, and just make that capital there, and let's do HTML. So we want to open up our HTML, and yeah, I got to set my vimrc a little bit, but we want to have a head of the document, and we want to have the character set equal UTF-8, and maybe, you know, if we were going to actually put this up, we'd want to have a viewport tag, and we want to have the content set equal to width equals device dash width initial dash scale equals 1.0. Okay, and then we give it some title like binomial addition. And we'd probably want to link in a style sheet, but what I'm going to do right now is just write in a couple styles. And we're going to have some styles for the body. And in the body, what I want to have is we'd want to have, let's see, the body we want to have a max width of, let's say, 800 pixels. And let's have a margin left that's auto, and a margin right that's also auto. And now let's also have some styling for the H2 tag. Let's just give a padding of 20 pixels. It's not going to be a ton of styling for this. And for the paragraph, let's have a padding of 15 pixels, say, something like that. And let's close the style tag. And let's close the head of the document. Let's open the body of the document. All right, and let's go down to the bottom, close the body, and close the HTML. One thing I want to try here, see if I've been trying to get this to work, and if it doesn't, let me know. Let me know some suggestions, but I'm going to do visual mode, GG to get to the top, and then equals. And it's indenting lines. Okay, so it's taking some time here. So it formatted it. Okay, so it is working. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's pretty sweet. So basically, I just formatted it. Now, I'd really set up the indent for probably like 2 spaces or something like that, but you know, whatever. Okay, so cool. All right, so now we've got our HTML file created. So I'm just going to save that. And then I'm going to go here. So that was a Vim trick, by the way. If you highlight the whole thing, hit equals, the equals sign, it will auto format it. So that's something I learned recently, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty sweet. Just know it took a little time to do it because I think before I was a little impatient. I'm like, why isn't that going right away? But all right. Also with filming, it did take a little time. All right, so let's take a look. Let's view this in the browser. Okay, so you'll see we have all these problems here, and it's not right on the edge there. Now you can add a few more things to this file if you so choose. So if I go GG, get up back toward the top, and then I come along here, and maybe I do something like your name, just use a paragraph tag, and then do another paragraph tag here with the date, and then maybe I go to the bottom here and just put a paragraph with style equal to text align center. Just doing some inline stylings, which is fine for this little project. Typically, you want a style sheet when you're doing like a website or something like that. But this is just to make a worksheet. All rights reserved. And there we go. Okay, and I would do this for the solutions as well. So now if I refresh, you see I have the name and the date up there. And if I scroll down to the bottom, I have my copy right there. And to make this a worksheet, I would just print it as saving as PDF. Now with the settings here, you would get typically the base setting here is you get the headers and footers. And if I click that, you'll see it has the local address on my computer. I don't want that. So now all I would have to do is just click save, and let's do that. And we just a binomial addition.pdf. Sure, I'll save it in my downloads. And let's take a look. All right, let's go to our downloads and let's check out this worksheet. Okay, and we've got a nice little worksheet with a bunch of problems on it. Auto-generated 100 problems, adding quickly. So that didn't take much time to do either. So that's a nice advantage if you're a teacher. You want to learn a little C# or a little Python. I've done videos on that. Excuse me, how to do the same thing. Yeah, so that would be a great way of doing it as well. All right, so now if I explore it again, I could go down to my solutions here. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Let me just go to, let me just open that. Sorry about that. And I would go to my solution file. I don't want to check my solutions, but I would do the same thing with the formatting there. Add a head of document, the bottom of the document. I could copy it over from the other one because the head is going to be pretty much the same. Maybe change the title. And if you were putting this as a web page, you want to have a description as well. All right. So that's basically it. You'd create 2 worksheets that way. And it's an easy way to automate the process. You can create an HTML pages for your students to visit, upload them to your local server. It'd be pretty easy to do. I hope you found this video enjoyable. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, as it really helps the channel grow. Also, if you want to follow me on GitHub, that'd be greatly appreciated, or maybe give me a star in a repository. Or I'm also going to put a link to this worksheet up on Teacher Pay Teachers. It'll probably be up there for $1 if you would like to support me in that way. Thank you for watching this video and dealing with my mistakes. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.